I'm Andrew Hubbard. I'm here on behalf of the iT4C, on behalf of the third sector, charities and communities. And what I'm going to be looking for is your feedback, your reaction, your engagement, and possibly your involvement in a host of very exciting new opportunities in the charity world, all based around the cloud. The cloud is a perfect solution to charity IT problems, and I'll go through a few examples of how we see that happening and what we're trying to do about it. iT4C was set up 8 years ago. It's a data agency, really, a dating agency between IT volunteers and needy charities. And we have a whole range of activities that the volunteers get involved in, pro bono, giving help and assistance for increasingly it used to be databases, and now it's all around getting people onto the web, helping them build their donation websites, helping them run campaigns, helping them collaborate using web technologies. iT4C was set up by WCIT, which is one of the City of London livery companies. We're very proud that there's now an IT one, which has been going for 20 years. And our obligations are to represent the interests of our trade and provide education and charitable almsgiving back into the community. So, and you can imagine from an IT point of view, there's a lot for us that we can get engaged in. We're audited by the Charity Commission as to the value of engagement that iT4C delivers. So that's the number of hours and days that IT professionals put into charities. And we've delivered over £3.5 million worth of IT consulting. So that's a lot of hours. When we talk about third sector, the scope of this, it's not just any one of the 35,000 registered charities in the UK. We also help community organisation, the new breed of social enterprises, community interest companies and so on. Our volunteers are spread across the UK. We've got this 8,000 volunteers, dramatically increased in the last 2 years. And we did research on that, and that's because IT people have become available due to the recession. One important point on that map is because we're giving IT volunteering, it's virtual. So we famously had a volunteer who built a website for a charity in Scotland and won IT Volunteering of the Year award. Never left Australia, never visited the charity, but built a perfect solution for them. It's an online service, so charities register, they define what they need, that gets sent through a whole host of emails or RSS feeds or other communication routes to volunteers that have the skills that match what the charity's looking for. That then gets allocated to a project definer who does some pretty standard IT best practice, definition of specification, matching of requirement to volunteer, and then introductions, and off they go. The benefit's pretty clear. They get good quality professional IT volunteer support when they are unlikely to get that. I think it's the juxtaposition of talking after Dave from the Met Office, and I know Dave and I know the scale of his operation. Our IT is usually a knackered second-hand piece of kit stuck in a cupboard or a garage, poor comms in and out, no backup, and the person running it doesn't know what it's doing because it was given to them. That's small charity IT, and it's a vicious circle because it's old, out-of-date kit. It goes wrong more often, and it doesn't run the documents that get sent from other people, and it really is a vicious circle. That's a hint of what cloud brings to us, because that fixes all of that. That expense, that paucity of service, that poor IT support that you get from running your own show just evaporates, and you're getting a different service, probably at a lower cost, over the cloud. I just want to highlight from a business, we rely heavily on business sponsorship to allow us to provide this sort of service. We charge £85 to a charity, although we do have a fund that for deserving causes pays the £85 to sponsor a project. And that on average gets you £3,000 worth of IT volunteering skills. But the really exciting figure for us is that delivers £20,000 of charitable impact. If that volunteer allows a transport for children network in the southwest to more efficiently collaborate, that's the scale of the payback they get. If they launch a website that then encourages donations, that's a measurable charity impact. I'm going to move on to C Cloud. So C Cloud is a charity cloud. And you can imagine a lot of cloud players are very interested in being seen to support something like C Cloud. There's a vast number of people who would, we can see would benefit from a cloud service of charity applications. Let's be clear, what do they want? Email, website hosting, very generic solutions, maybe finance, Sage, something like that. And then one or two very specific charity applications, primarily fundraising and stakeholder management, which is key, and what's called M&E, which is measurement and evaluation. Charities have to, particularly when they're being funded either by government sources, local authorities, trusts, or CSR budgets, they've got to show what, they've got to audibly show what they've done with the money and measure and evaluate the outcomes. So those are very important mission-critical applications to charities. What I wanted to just show here is there's subtly different in the charity space is you lose that competitive element. Sure, there's competition over funding, but you lose that competitive element, so there's much more opportunity for collaboration. And that means that the government, a whole bunch of advice providers, Soccer Team, which some of you may be familiar with, is a good example, the Society of IT Managers. Funders, government, Office of the Third Sector, trusts. One of the big sponsors of this is Nominet, who are the domain name organisation. They all play a role. There's a lot of research being done about the cloud, and there's quite a bit of research that's been done about the cloud in the charity sector. And I wanted to put this up because it explains some of the challenges we face, that we need perhaps more committed people like ourselves who believe, who get what cloud offers, know the risks of it, to help the charity sector, as I described at the beginning, who are, see so much benefit to this, get over some of these barriers. Do you believe that cloud technology services will be cheaper and more efficient? And yes, and about the same is more than 60%. So they're thinking there. But 27%, which is a lot of don't knows. You don't get many surveys where people go, don't know. So when selecting cloud provider, they've got to be familiar with your product, the interface of what you do. And here, 80% are agree strongly and agree. So there is this view, the charities, and my experience is they are different, they're very conscious that they're different, and they're anxious that stuff coming in from the commercial world won't quite fit or will mislead them. And these stats all begin to say, again, I'm not sure, will cloud reduce my total cost of ownership? 44% not sure. One of the things we sort of trigger people to think about is, do you use Facebook? Do you use Google? Do you use a whole host of Flickr, internet-based services? And of course they all use them and use them most of the time. So we're trying to say, well, you use a lot of that, you're comfortable with that. Now think about how you take advantage of that ease of use to bring it across into the operations of your charity. I was asked by Street League, which is a charity that changes lives through football, to help them with their IT challenge, an IT strategy. This is 2 years ago. They distributed across the country, and the challenge they had was they were getting 15-second response times for the 50 staff who worked in Scotland. And that's because they were coming in through a very little pipe into a big office in London to this horrible server in a cupboard at the back of a broom cupboard. And the London people were getting great service because they had a big fat pipe going out of their building, but just those, no one had the knowledge, the experience, the understanding to try and work that out. The IT challenge was no way in which we could support a national rollout of street league centres. Big base in Glasgow, big base in the northeast, here in London. Our next move is into the northwest, Liverpool, Manchester, and then the Midlands. And what cloud brought us was to just remove a barrier that was stopping. Street League got stuck in 3 regions with different IT systems, where the northeast, and this was quite clearly a subsequence of our inability to provide a common IT platform. The northeast got heavily into participation, and that's really babysitting these guys for a morning, 3 mornings a week. Whereas Scotland and London were in progressions, moving them through into education and employment. And what cloud allowed us to do, and when I first arrived, we were looking at an internal solution because they'd got this piece of ropey kit in a broom cupboard. So it was like, I don't need to replace that. Nobody looking after it, no backup. And the price profiles of the total cost of ownership over 5 years for fixing that piece, new servers, new infrastructure and comms capability in all of the sites, that big fat pipe both into that server room, that was one of the biggest expenses, moved into the hundreds of thousands of pounds a year to support somebody of this scale, where we've got 150 staff around the country. And a lot of apps, you can imagine scheduling through SMS when the guys come and play football. The challenge of hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, which we really don't have, to put in that infrastructure, was fixed by cloud, where we could go to people and have a pay-as-you-go. Nothing's longer than a month in terms of either our email service or our application hosting, and we grow it depending on where we need it. And the figure that we've published around the savings of that are in the order of £500,000 over 5 years we've saved moving to the cloud from an in-house solution. It's £3,000 per academy per youth. Not very good at maths. That's a lot of guys being able to go through a program like this. I needed to get across to the guys who run Street League and the board of trustees that in moving across to a cloud solution, we weren't losing any of our control over the data. You can imagine the sensitivity. All of us have data security issues. We've got some really sensitive data that shouldn't go into the public domain. And the processes that are so crucial to us controlling what's happening. And the governance of those from an integrity, risk, security, compliance perspective. What I was very keen to show them, and my colleagues in the private sector came in and helped educate them in this area, was you're not losing any of this. This stays with us. What we're doing is system, software, operations, hardware, and networks. That's what's going away. The stuff you don't like and you don't run very well and costs a lot. Some of the other charities we've helped, Learning Through Action has moved onto a cloud. Again, volunteers tend to come in and help people set up. One I haven't added here is St. Bart's in Smithfield. Anyone know St. Bart's? Beautiful church in Smithfield. The Barbican, used in 4 weddings and a funeral. Their problem is they've got 4 foot thick walls and their local area network couldn't get through them. Cloud gave them a solution. They could have a dongle, and then everybody, even though their data center could be in China, suddenly they're all talking to the same solution.